Good day, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal. Welcome to a new program from Guru Wonder. I'm your host, Gurvinder Singh. Ever since the hostilities broke out on the Ukraine front from 2014 in Ukraine, I have been fascinated by the conflict and the lessons it offered all of us. And therefore, I decided to do a series called The New Art of War. Any form of destruction cannot be an art, but for want of a better frame of describing things, I shall proceed with the name of The New Art of War. Nothing is what it seems, and a study of conflict eventually reveals the best and the worst of our human nature, geopolitics, management, strategy, logistics, resources, propaganda, information, and a whole host of things. So I welcome you to this series and look forward to your continued interest and participation in my programs. Thank you. Conflict is the natural order of things. One will always find that anybody in a position, or any being, or any organization, or any creature in a position of domination will seriously resent all challenges to their authority and power by whatever means that is possible. Other creatures in nature have limited ways of challenging the challenger, but it is us humans that have this most sophisticated capability and capacity to put down a challenger. And in that sense, America has been the hegemon and the greatest world power in the past 100 years, more than 100 years, and therefore it has been doing everything in its power to make sure that it remains the sole superpower. And that is what creates a lot of problems for them and for the whole world. At the end of World War II, the Americans developed what is basically a WASP regime. That is the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant power that included European countries that believed in the same work ethic and approach, and at the head of all this was Great Britain. So Britain and the United States worked together to create a new world order while restraining leashing two great powers, one in Asia, Japan, and one in Europe called Germany, emasculating these countries and depriving them the right to ever, or the capacity to ever rise again militarily, and thus threaten American power. So with their partner, Great Britain, America went about integrating the non-communist world and developed multilateral bodies, institutions, and they also went about looking for partners, people that were aligned with the American way of thinking and working, and with America at the very apex of this. But not everybody who not everybody accepted to the American way of doing things, or to support what America believed as its divine right to dominate the world. And any power, any government, any leader that dared to oppose the way the American government wanted soon found themselves in trouble. Either they would face a coup, a regime change, and there would be riots and all sorts of things until America got the government that it wanted. If we look at the entire last century, ever since the beginning of the last century, from the early 1900s, everything that America has done and intervened is to bring about a regime change. That is to bring somebody or a group of people or powers into power that would align themselves with American interests at the expense of their own countries and people's interests. And if you look at it, wherever America has gone after World War II, every single attempt at regime change, you call it Afghanistan, you look at Iran, you look at Venezuela, look at Syria, look at Iraq, and now Russia, and now in China, everywhere using the twin planks of human rights and of course what they would classify as abuse of human rights, and that would be freedom of religion and all the other things of that one. And secondary would be democracy. Why democracy? Democracy is where the tail can wag the dog. A small group in power can actually get everybody else to come along to their way of thinking and functioning, which is to align themselves with American interests, American business interests. One thing we have to recognize is that in every country, the power does not, we say, oh, America. It's not America. There's a minuscule group of people inside America who control America, American politics, American resources, American military, American finances, American foreign policy, and use the entire machinery of the state and its people to benefit themselves. And really, it is unfair that an entire country or an entire region or an entire people are blamed for the actions of this small group who manipulate the corrupted politicians, leaders, and government officials to achieve their gains. Now, while they manage to, in spite of all these regime change efforts, America has lost virtually every single conflict, regime change effort that it set out to do. And each time making America as a country weaker and less respected, but feared. And there were two powers that they could not control, or who held the prospect of being a threat to America, and it's of course its vassals in Europe. One was Russia, and the other was China. So, well, Richard Nixon and his artful and very cunning Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger went and, in a sense, bribed China to come over to their side and ally with America, thus hoping to introduce democracy and to wean China away from communism and make it a American vassal. To a very large extent, America did a lot with the help of Europe and Japan to bring prosperity to China, with the hope that they would be America's partners going forward. And their target was always Russia. There has been almost a century of development of Russophobia, literature, criticizing and communism very aggressively, into the point of imprisoning people that held any kind of view that seemed to support communism or socialism. And Hollywood did its share, novelists wrote there, the newspaper, everything. There was a cult and a thinking of several generations of development of Russophobia, and the people always felt that Russia was America's greatest enemy, the Soviet Union was America's greatest enemy, and therefore deserved to be destroyed. The tragedy of the American approach is that they do not look for partners. They do not look for allies. Though they may call themselves allies, America is just a domineering boss. It wants to dominate, and therefore the communication and the thing of the teamwork is very much lopsided in American favor, and it only favors American interests at the expense of their allies and their partners, or vassals as we would like to call them. So they have been coming back, that they were always looking at how to cage the Russian bear. And they had their chance with the collapse of the Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union disintegrated, the Americans stepped forward and said, we would help, we are willing to help you to join and integrate with the rest of the world, the American-led rest of the world. And Russia gladly accepted it, except that they had a alcohol guzzling, weak president in Boris Yeltsin, who simply allowed the oligarchs and their partners in the West, collective West, to literally rip out and strip Russia of great resources. And these oligarchs were nothing but gangsters, mafia-like gangsters, who had their own armies, and Russia, which was once a very stable and very rigid and very disciplined society, broke down, and it started going down the tubes. And a group of people, which we now call the neoconservatives, that's the neocons for short, with the help of with financiers and industrialists and business people and government and politicians and military leaders, and what they also have is the military-industrial complex, decided that this is a good time to make money in a world where and to establish total power in a world which no other power or no other pole could challenge them. So rather than partnering with Russia and the former Soviet Union, they decided to go on a exploitative journey. And therefore, it was never a sustainable partnership. It was just like a one-sided way. But it's always possible for the Americans, the cunning neocons, to cook up something and get the world to come along and to stir up trouble, to eventually replace people that they wanted. So in the beginning, they enticed Russia to enter Afghanistan, and there is this national security advisor under Jimmy Carter called Brzezinski, who took great pride in saying that we have succeeded in enticing the bear to walk into the Afghan trap. And we know that a decade of in the quagmire of Afghanistan, Russia lost her way, her world respect as a power, and the people began to turn against their own government. And soon after that, the Soviet Union collapsed. Drawing lessons from that, the Americans decided that now with the new states that are there, which border Russia, I mean, there are the states of the former Soviet Union, must be brought and into the American fold, and must have regimes that would be favorable to America, and then use these regimes to bring down the Russian bear. There was Kazakhstan, there was Georgia, there was Ukraine, there was Belarus, and all these countries were targeted to go from neutral or pro-Russian positions to anti-Russian positions. And they tried this in Georgia, and the Georgian government received a bloody nose from the Russians. Kazakhstan, they tried to do that, but that was the revolution there was quickly put down. The same thing happened with Belarus, and Belarus also, decided to stay with the pro-Russian group. Ukraine, however, was dithering, and it preferred to work with Russia. So what did the Americans do? They staged what is called an Orange Revolution, and they brought down the government, created a mob-like situation, and forced the government to step down, a democratically elected government to step down, what we know as the 2014 Maidan Orange Revolution, the Maidan protests and the Orange Revolution. It is not difficult to get 100,000 people to come together, create violence, to kill some people, and do everything that can cause this kind of situation. And that's exactly what happened in Ukraine. Democratic presidents have come and gone, Republican presidents have come and gone, but the neocon team in the US government, State Department, backed by the Clinton family, has stayed on through several administrations and is still in a dominant and controlling position in the State Department. And they precipitated a crisis in Ukraine. And what did they do and how did they do it, I would like to cover in the second part. Thank you for joining me. If you like this video, please do not forget to like and share. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. I thank you and wish you a good day.